it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah, so what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'm never going back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello and welcome to the iRacing Esports Network and the Acuta AOSC Super Series live from Mosport. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me for this evening's racing is Marco Barbonet, Scott Newton on the cameras. And we are just about to get underway for this very special qualifying, Marco. This is round 5 of the championship, the third sprint round of the championship. And for the first time this season, we've got a proper top 10 qualifying shootout. We're about to see all the drivers go out onto the circuit, one after the other, see who can post the best time. It's very exciting.
Well, first of all, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and it's a great pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to be able to fill in for this broadcast and finally commentate on this wonderful series. Absolutely, you are right. Top 10 shootout, just like they do in a certain very, very famous race at Bathurst. And but we are in Mosport, of course. One of my favorite racetracks, a track that hasn't changed much since the early days of its inception. In fact, you can fire up Grand Prix Legends and have a lap around here, and the track is going to be very, 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 very similar to what you have right now. So, cannot wait for this. I see already there is some activity on the racetrack. Therefore, we can go and see who is going to put his car on pole position.
Absolutely. So like I was saying before, the drivers will go one by one for this qualifying session. We've already had qualifying already, but of course the top 10 drivers will have an opportunity to set their fastest time out here. And then we'll go for the race. But here's Brett Loxton then, the first driver to try to put in a quick time for Zuba Racing 209. And his attempt starts now. So Marco, I mean, just a word on this circuit. I mean, like you said, very old school track. It's very similar to what it was a few decades ago. And really, it's the long sweeping corners, the high elevation change as well for these guys. And I think particularly in this V8 supercar is a really tricky circuit. It's one of those where you've got to be very patient in the car. You can't overdrive this thing possibly around this circuit. You've got to be very smooth and very consistent over this 150 kilometer race distance.
Yeah, and going back to qualifying, it's a very tough balance going back to what you said, because of course you want to push as hard as possible and get the best position that you possibly can on the starting grid, but at the same time, quite easy, as the folks at home can see from these pictures here. There is not a lot of real estate and for margin for error, and there's a bunch of grass, easy to get an off track, so you want to get a lap as clean as possible. And of course then we will go back to the grass question, grass problem in the race, because of course that long left-hander as Loxton comes and sets the first time of this top 10 shootout. If you clip that grass, especially now on the new tire model V7, you are going for a ride in the grass, and there is no coming back from that. Very good organization, because already we have another car on track setting his fastest time possible, and it's Jacob Knight in that 0-4 and this beautiful livery. I mean, you know, I'm a sucker for great liveries, and yeah, I saw this series, of course. We commented about it on the podcast that we do weekly, and man, I love a lot of these liveries as we jump on board with Jacob as he goes into Moss.
Yeah, it takes, well, I thought he was going to take a little bit of curve on the inside, which isn't really something that you necessarily want to do, but just managed to thread the needle there superbly. We're not quite sure what the times in first qualifying were, but of course the track temperatures will be so important in this. And just a couple of degrees track temperature could be the difference for these guys. It's currently 34 degrees Celsius, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it might decrease by a couple of degrees. Of course, with no cars currently circulating around, it might cool down as well. But let's see if Jacob Knight can improve. It's a short lap round here at Mosport. He's got a 17.36 to beat, and he does beat it to go on to provisional pole. A 17.12. Well, you know it, Sean Thompson. He's on his way. The 092 car Just a reminder, of course, championship leader James Scott is yet to go. He is, of course, the championship leader by a few points. We'll go through the championship, I think, later on when we load into the race session. We'll probably have... Oh, Thompson all over the place. And, well, he might keep it out of the barrier. Well,
No.
he hasn't kept it out of the barrier. But that is an invalidated lap time. And Sean Thompson's hopes of a good qualifying position are in trouble there. So the highest he'll start is, well, he could start in third if everyone else messes up their lap times, but this is how it happened then, riding on board with him. And yeah, it's just maybe that patience, like I was saying, Marco, and the grass, as you were saying, just putting in a little bit too much thoughts, or wanted to get that extra half a tenth or so, and just dipping a wheel onto the grass. And it is so tricky, even with this, well, especially with this new tyre model, and with the power of these supercars. Yeah, just really tricky to control the car in that situation.
Absolutely. I mean, once the car started sliding there after clipping the grass there, it was absolutely difficult, almost impossible to get it back. And sadly, that was that for Thompson. Now we have Bretton Hobson, of course, otherwise known as Obo88, and after him we'll have our points leader. But here we go, starting his fast lap is the number 88 car.
Yep, negotiating the first corner all right, and then this big plunge down the hill through turn 2. And much better than what we saw previously, leaving a little bit of space available as well. And Hobson so far very good on this lap. You can see not really going too far to the white lines, but of course here you've got to be ever so brave on the brakes, really going as fast as you possibly can, because the faster you go, maybe a little bit of understeer can really open up the line, get you a lot of speed.
So purple sector 1 for Hobson. Let's see sector 2. Of course, you can follow the progress down below. You see that black bar that moves further and further to the right, and then it will color itself into yellow, green, or purple. It's green in the second sector, so Hobson looking good to possibly put his number 88 Holden on provisional pole. Just a couple of corners left.
Final corner for Hobson. So he has got a 17.12 to beat. Can he break the 1 minute 17 mark? No, he can't. It's enough for second place. Just about beats out Brett Loxton. Jacob Knight still pole sitter. Now, here we are. James Scott. So far, the winner of 3 out of 4 races so far this season. Second place in the other one. That was last time out at Summit Point a fortnight ago. Wasn't the fastest in qualifying in the first qualifying session at least, but you would not bet against him, perhaps taking at least a front row start for this round of the championship. And a little bit sideways through turn 2 seemingly, but Scott so far yet to get through the first sector, I believe. But yeah, we'll be really looking to improve that time. There we go, fastest first sector, 4/100ths of a second faster than Jacob Knight. So this is on course at the moment for the championship leader, who has been ever so impressive so far this season.
Yes, absolutely. And now, of course, putting all the power down on the Mario Andretti straight. Here we go, that beautifully presented ERT car as he enters the final sector. Let's see the second sector first. He improves.
It's not a whole lot.
No, not by much.
He's 6/100ths of a second up, so it's still got to be a very good final sector in order to take pole. And he just run a little bit wide perhaps through the final corner. It didn't quite seem as tight as maybe he'd want it to. And he crosses the line, and it's only good enough for second place. It's 1/100th of a second short. I do think it was that final corner where he just was a couple of meters away from the apex, which just cost him those few hundreds. So Jacob Knight retains pole position. That's now 3 drivers that he has been able to survive. Ready to trying to warm up those tyres. It's already pretty warm out there, but he wants even more warmth in those tyres. Of course, anyone who's been following the Porsche tyre warm-up scandal will know that these drivers are not allowed to do anything crazy, no burnouts or anything, even though that would potentially be a bit of an advantage. So with 2, that's the final corner, and we'll see if he can improve. So far, Joe, who's got a couple of top 5s so far this season. Try and see where he is in the championship. A little bit further down than maybe we'd expect, but certainly a driver who could certainly fight for today's race win. Down in 34th place at the moment is Vettel. He's had a couple of difficult rounds as the EXG Motorsports driver.
Yes, we go down the hill once again, getting the run into Moss, one of the most, if not the most, critical corners of the racetrack. Is purple in the first sector, clipping the apex, then the curb on the left side, another apex clipped, perfect through this section. But this is where Knight really put on a fantastic lap so far. No one has been able to beat him in the second sector. Let's see, number 38 is coming through, and he cannot beat him as well. So far, Knight has really built a fantastic middle sector, Sam, and no one has been able to beat him. Let's see the final sector for number 038. Bradley rounds up the final corner, clips the curb on the left side. Not enough.
It is enough.
It is enough. Wow, okay.
So he just about, so he was a couple of hundredths of a second up going into the last sector, and then he set I'm saying not, it wasn't the best final sector. Benton Hobson currently in 4th place, set the fastest final sector, but he gained another 700ths of a second in the final sector. And yeah, so he goes ahead of Jacob Knight then. So Bradley 2 now, the driver to beat. Still hasn't beaten the 77-second barrier. Danny Davison will try to put that right. Another EXG driver. EXG looking very strong for this round of the championship. Let's see what he can do then. So much pressure on these drivers, Marco, and this is the first time we've had this format so far this season. I think this format has been used for previous seasons, but I mean, to have this pressure around such a short circuit, you've got to nail absolutely every single corner. And at this point in the qualifying session, you know, you make one tiny mistake, it could be the difference between pole and maybe even 8th place.
Yes, and of course the fantastic viewers have been, and fans of this championship have now been introduced to the mandatory Marco cannot do calculations, which is, you know, of course, part of the package when you get me into the commentary box. But yeah, you are absolutely right. On the other hand, and I don't know if this is an advantage or extra pressure, you have some sort of an idea of the ballpark that you have, of the lap that you need to get to stay on pole position. So let's see if Davison can improve on the pole time. So far, he is not improved on both of the times, the first 2 sectors of the current pole sitter. Here we go on the start-finish line. It's a great 3rd sector.
4th.
Yeah, he didn't get a single purple sector in this lap. Therefore,
it was a solid lap, wasn't it? I mean, the first sector wasn't great. He was only 0.24 off in the end, and he was 0.24 off in the first sector. So that's pretty much where he lost it. Although he wasn't a whole lot slower than Jacob Knight in the first sector. He resides in P2. Harley Haber, the only driver besides James Scott to have won a race so far this season, one last time out at Summit Point, and in dominant fashion as well, was really the class of the field. Even Scott in the closing stages had some time to make up, but make any impression on Haber, who also took pole at Mosport as well by a few tenths of a second. And so he's looking really strong out there at the moment. Perhaps the favourite for this pole position. Let's see what his first sector time is, and it's all right. So 29.71. That's the second fastest first sector we've seen. It was just the 2 was incredible through the first sector. However, as long as Haber can have a 28 second sector, he should have the advantage at least 2/3 the way round this lap. So yeah, he wants a kind of 28.8 or so. He's about to come up to the line. It's a 29.04. It's not a good second sector. That's one of the slowest we've seen so far. And so he has got to pull out an incredible final sector. He's got about a tenth of a second, tenth and a half of a second to make up on Bradley Ritout. It looks very good though through those final few corners. Harley Haber approaches the line. And it's fourth. Slower than James Scott, crucially. And so Bradley Ritout and Jacob Knight, impressively, Knight, he was, I think, the third driver to go. Third driver to set his lap time, and he's still up in that top 2.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw on the screen, thank you, of course, to Scott behind the cameras for coming up with this great idea, as we have basically the sector time comparison in real time. And none of the sectors was more than 0.1 slower than the pole lap, but the field is so tight. So that was the difference between being on the front row and being in fourth. Let's see, as we are, of course, getting into the final few cars. 2 cars left in this top 10 shootout.
And here is Glenn Postlethwaite, whose first sector time is all right. It's 29.81. That's near. Oh, and he's off the circuit, and
wow.
that's it then. So that's a 1x. And Glenn Postlethwaite, he would have been fancying his chance, and you can see how he's absolutely furious with that one. And well, certainly hoping that John Emerson will, hoping that the driver in front of him will not spin in front. Emerson now goes past. So Postlethwaite then will be starting down in 9th or 10th place. We saw an off earlier on for another driver. That was it Kristen Smart? Sorry, Sean Thompson. Of course, messed up his lap time earlier on as well. So those two will be in 9th and 10th. But what can John Emerson do? He was fastest in the qualifying session earlier on. Can he produce the lap to take pole position? Joe, who we haven't seen a whole lot of so far this season, but this could be some impressive performance from him. Through turn 1 he goes. Very solid. 2 looks all right as well. I mean, as long as he's within a couple of tenths of a 2 through the first sector, that would be a win.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you need to break the 117 barrier if you want to stay on pole position. That was a fantastic lap from our current pole sitter, and he's behind at 0.060 compared to the pole lap. Now he needs to give everything into this second sector. We saw earlier with Aber, even if you are just a small fraction of a second behind in each sector, you might find yourself in 4th, 5th, 6th place. Such is the quality. Let's see the sector 2.
Oh no,
it's a purple.
Yeah, really good second sector. So he's currently about a tenth of a second up on Bradley Ritout. It's a bit of curb at the penultimate corner. That looks good. Final corner as well. John Emerson for pole position.
And he gets it.
By 2 tenths. It's a big gap in the end. There was another very nice sector 3, but it was that purple sector 2 which really did the business for him. And it's John Emerson on pole position here at Mosport for round 5 of the championship in the Acuta AOSC Super Series. So it'll be Emerson, Ritout, Knight, Scott's championship leader starting in 4th place. That's a little bit better than what it was potentially looking like it could be for him. Haber, Davison, Hobson, Loxton, and then Thompson and Postlethwaite, who did not set times in the end. So we will switch over, and all the drivers, of course, will switch over to the race session. I think in the meantime, we're going to get a little bit of a debrief from the last round of the championship at Mosport. Apologies, at Summit Point from the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast. Me and Marco chatted about round 4 of the championship, so you'll be able to listen to that for the next 10 minutes or so, and we'll be back for the race here at Mosport in the Acuta AOSC Super Series just in a bit. So next up, we will talk about, well, we're going to leave the Euro V8 Supercar Series, I think, till last because it was so good. But first up, we will talk about the AOSC Super Series, the Acuta AOSC Super Series. Round 4 of the championship, it was at Summit Point. Marco, I think we talked a little bit about this last week, how Summit Point is an unusual circuit for such a high-quality league to go to. I'm not sure if you saw much of the race. But lap 1 wasn't a great indication of the circuit. However, I think, we'll talk about properly what happened in a moment. However, I think the general gist of the race was a bit like a Formula 1 race, where it's really tricky to overtake. However, you can really use the strategy to your own advantage. It's high degradation, one-stop strategy, of course. But of course, if you get on some fresh tyres, you can go 2 seconds up faster than your rival. And it was really interesting, actually, to see in this 47-lap race, I believe it was, drivers pitting, 10 laps earlier than their rivals, getting a massive undercut, and then facing the price of it later on. So, people criticise these tricky-to-overtake circuits, saying, oh, well, we should just go to, the massive circuits instead. But I think these club circuits are, pretty good for this strategic element. It's not just about how fast you are, it's about kind of what your decisions when it comes to coming into the pits.
Absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's nice to strike a balance again in championships between long tracks, with plenty of straight lines and hard braking areas, and these trickier tracks. Summit Point, of course, is often overlooked by many series, especially leagues, because I think it's the oldest track on iRacing, and it's certainly more than Okayama, more than other places. It's like the place that really has the smell of the rookie track,
Yeah.
So, and the scenes we saw at the start of the race with, two cars being launched into oblivion on the left side of the screen because there are some basically launching pads there, and then the big wreck that we had coming into turn 1 certainly were not too different from what we can expect from a rookie series, but I think then the racing got very, very, very good, and despite being a tough start, it was certainly a good race.
Yeah, it was. After those incidents on the opening lap, the pace car was put out. It had to be an automatic pace car because one of the stewards didn't get into the session. But it works fine. Everyone got behind the pace car. We got back going, I think, on lap 4 of the race. Took the pressure off the tyres a little bit, and I imagine the fuel as well for the drivers. Basically, Haber got pole position for the first time in the season, I believe. James Scott has been absolutely dominating the series for a while. I think going into this round, I think he'd won something like 7 consecutive rounds. Going back to last season, he'd won all 3 of the rounds, of course 2 of them team rounds as well. But even at Brands Hatch, the only solo round of the season so far, he was absolutely dominant. So, was certainly the guy to beat. Only managed to qualify in 3rd position. Hayward took pole. Gilliam was alongside him on the front row of the grid. Of course, we had that mess at the start, but pretty much the top 3 staying in the same order. There wasn't too much of a change. And then, pretty much just staying in line all the way to the pit stops, overtaking very tricky. So a few drivers came in very early on about lap 15. And you can see that there's 47 laps. That's way before halfway, especially considering that a few of those early laps were behind the safety car. And it's worked out all right for those guys. It wasn't perfect, but it managed to get them a few positions. I think particularly Luthwaite or Postlewaite getting quite a few places up into 4th. It was Haber, the first driver to come into the pits. Then it was Scott. Then it was Gilliam. Scott, with the warmed up tyres, managed to overtake Gilliam a few laps after their pit stops, managed to move up into 2nd position, which he was obviously very pleased about, and couldn't catch up Harley Haber, though, in the closing stages. So it pretty much just finished like that. Haber winning out. Scott in second place, boosting his championship lead, of course, and Gilliam with a very impressive third position. Yeah, it's been a really tight championship so far, Marco. Of course, a couple of team rounds, a couple of individual rounds. It's fantastic that this series is now on Apex Racing TV, and it kind of shows how this V8 Supercar, despite not necessarily being the most used, particularly in the official series, really is one of the best race cars in all of iRacing.
I mean, yes, especially considering what we are going to tell and talk about a bit later. Also, I made my appearance in the broadcast around lap 35, I think, coming back from the gym, if I'm not mistaken, and so I watched the final few laps. But yeah, I mean. I have to say I love the graphics package that the guys have set up, the way the cars show on the screen, unique color scheme. I have to say that I've heard that there have been initially some, maybe because because maybe the drivers and the viewers were used to another broadcaster streaming the series. There was a little bit of pushback, but now, as expected, these things go away quite quickly when the quality of the work that you show is as great as the work you guys are doing on the series. So hopefully this is going to stay a lot for a long time on Apex Racing TV, because I think this is one of the best series that we have to offer. And now that we have two, of course, V8 series. We have one for Europe and one for Australia and New Zealand. So, I mean, we are only missing an American one, basically, and then we have all time zones covered.
Yeah, exactly. And both of them are absolutely thriving at the moment, which is terrific. This new car certainly helping out those series significantly. Of course, I'm meant to be commentating on it right now, but it's a big week for the first time in the series. But welcome back to the iRacing Esports Network and the Acuta AOSC Super Series presented by Apex Racing TV. We are preparing for the race now in this round 5 of the championship, of course, at Mosport. Hopefully you enjoyed qualifying just a few minutes ago. It certainly was a very exciting top 10 shootout, and hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of an extract from the Apex Racing TV weekly roundup podcast. You can check that on our channel, Apex Racing TV. Just a quick rundown of the last round of the championship at some point. Of course, Harley Haber winning out there. Big thanks, though, to the sponsors of this series who make everything so possible in this championship and make it really one of the best in all of iRacing. Acuta Solutions, of course, the title sponsor, providing rigging hardware and safety equipment. Next Level Racing, working on racing and flight cockpits, and will also be providing a direct drive base to a driver this season. Abruzzi Racewear, providing custom sim and real racing gear. Moten Simulations, who have VR sim racing centres all around Australia. Knight Rider Designs, creating personal liveries for drivers and teams. Wolf Graphics, doing personalised stickers and signs. Sam Blacklock Media, who will be doing the race highlight photos for this season. You can check that out on the AOSC Facebook page. And also Race Management Service, doing the live race control for all rounds of the season. We've got 1 more minute left in practice. A little bit of a quick turnaround here, Marco. This Mosport circuit, do we expect much overtaking around this place? Usually in the V8 Supercars, it's difficult to overtake anyway. Do you think this place offers up many overtaking opportunities?
Well, I think that there could be. I think it to most corner you, but you need to be brave, of course, and you need top collaboration from the driver you are trying to pass, which of course it's easier said than done. Apart from that, maybe you need to get a good run out of the Andretti straight away into the S's. That could be another spot, but yeah, making up positions is going to be very, very difficult. But, I think it adds to the challenge of this track, and of course the track itself could be a passing opportunity, meaning that it's a track where it's super easy to make mistakes. Therefore, that's how you could theoretically get positions or lose them.
Yeah, certainly though this starting order will be very important for today's race. 150 kilometers, remember, 38 laps. And on pole position, as we saw, John Emerson with that superb qualifying lap time. He's on pole. Bradley Ritchie in second place. Jacob Knight in third. James Scott lines up in fourth. Championship leader, of course. Harley Haber, winner last time out, starts in fifth. Next, Danny Davison, Brenton Hobson, Brett Loxton, Glenn Postlethwaite, Sean Thompson, rounding out the top 10. There's Ian Bird, just about missing out on that top 10 shootout. Michael Taljančić, watch out for him. James McKee, so too. Adam Briggs, Thomas Hines, Carl Stokes, of course, has won rounds this season in the team events. Starts down in 16th. Guy Leach, Damien Johnston, Tom Freer, and Jordan Caruso round out the top 20. It is a big field. 45 drivers. Thanks for all the drivers for turning up for today's race. And it should be a very, very good one. Just looking at the grid, we've pretty much got everyone on the grid. So we are going to be able to get underway very soon. Here we are then. John Emerson from the pole position. Can he hold the lead going into turn one? It looks like a very comfortable lead, and James Scott moves up 2 places. It's an awful start for Ritchie and Knight. Don't know what happened to them off the line, but they've both lost a lot of places from second and third on the grid. Down the inside, I think, was Haber on Scott, trying to go for an ambitious move. However, it didn't quite work out for him. So brilliant start for the championship leader, already up in second place. Emerson holding on to the lead. We've got an offer. It's Haber and maybe Postlethwaite as well. Loxton and Ritchie. So awful start for Ritchie and Haber. He started up in the top couple of rows, but they've dropped to the back of the field now.
Yes, chaotic start there at the front. Emerson still your leader in front of Scott, and then we have Hobson going wide into the Moss corner as Scott, as we have a safety car. Safety car has been deployed by the race organization. Safety car deployed, so first lap intervention of the safety car, and you will see the Mercedes AMG safety car in just a second. Single file no overtaking, we can hear from race control, and this is one of the features of this championship, of course, Sam. Race control, which is live, and of course a manually controlled safety car. And so we are in a situation where the field is frozen, and we'll see Emerson, Scott, Knight, Davison, Postlethwaite, Thompson, Taljančić, McKee, Briggs, Stokes, your top 10. So, well, interesting first lap to say the least. Let's see how long this safety car period will be, Sam, and if drivers... yeah, there are plenty of drivers who are opting for a pit stop, of course, to get some repairs done.
Yeah, probably the wise thing to do. They do get one fast repair. I'll bring them back in with a chance, but of course fresh tyres won't be too useful, won't be able to go to the end of the race as well. We'll need more fuel. Gives us an opportunity to analyse the start, because it was a crazy start for a couple of the front runners. It was just a dreadful start from the driver starting in second and third position. Scott, I don't think it was an especially good start, but Emerson just seemed to be miles clear of the rest of the field by the time we got down into turn one. I think Haber actually getting bottled up potentially as well. Did well, actually, Haber, to go round the outside at turn one.
Yeah, you can see the cars, there was one of the cars going wide there, but then the chaos happened here, as you can see. You will see very soon car going very wide. Oh, look at, okay. Oh man, so it was like 3 separate incidents basically, and several cars, as you can see here in the replay, were spinning out of control on their own, heading into Quebec, and that was all she wrote, at least for now. Of course, like you were saying, there is that fast repair possibility, and then you will see the number 88 going wide or just in front of this pack of cars, and that's when the safety car was called into action. Let's see the replay on board from Harley Haber, and you will see he's on the outside, minding his own business, going a bit wide, and then he's going to get hit by that spinning car of his competitor there, and then there's another car going into the barrier, and another one as well.
So I
All
think that was-
together.
So the driver who hit him there, of course, was Vitu. He starts it on the front row of the grid. And I guess it was Loxton as well, who lost it soon after. Kind of by himself to Loxton. I don't know if he thought that corner was flat out all of a sudden, but he seemed to be carrying way too much speed. And that has just made the cool tyres that we get in these cars now. Of course, the new tyre model on these machines will, of course, be coming to the GT3 cars among other cars as well in the next build in a few weeks' time. So, few drivers really being set back. In terms of the profiteers from that, Scott gained 2 places. Davison up a couple of places. Postlethwaite up 4 places. Taliancic up 5. Stokes up 6. I did say watch out for Carl Stokes, and I think he's going to be able to make up more places yet. Because always a very quick driver is Carl Stokes. Jamie McKnight is up 8 places. I think we saw a quick view of him on the opening lap, so he's had a nice start. And a few other drivers gaining 10 places. No absolutely massive gainers. Sometimes we half expect to see someone gaining 15 places at this point, but none of that so far. Of course, a manual safety car. By the way, the reason why we had the safety car wasn't because the track was blocked or anything. It was purely just because of the fact that some of the drivers had to tow back to the pits. So there's a no-tow rule. You have to request from the stewards to tow back to the pits, and if you do tow back, then there is a safety car. Hence why we saw the safety car. It's a very nice real-life element. Of course, manual safety car, that is one of the stewards driving the safety car. So all done very well in this series. Nick Hulser doing a good job. John Emerson then backing up the field. He's left a massive gap to the safety car in front of him, and it's his choice when to go. Not too much pressure behind this Mosport circuit at the start here. It's very tricky to overtake behind these final 3 corners, but he's backed up these drivers' tyres, cooling down a lot. None of that Mercedes special keeping the tyres warm technology on these machines. Much more basic. Emerson, though, rounding these last couple of corners. When will he decide to bolt? He could potentially bolt it here and get himself a nice gap, or he'll leave it till the pit, or he'll leave it till the start line, potentially. Here comes Emerson. Now he bolts through the final corner. Scott staying close to him. And he's going to be under a bit of pressure. Is the 013 cars. We're back underway racing here at Mosport. Already in the pits is Ian Bird, I think perhaps towing back. Not seeing any overtakes so far. Off the circuit is one of the drivers, that is Sean Thompson, who'd already gained a couple of places. Taliancic gains another place. He's up into 6th from 12th on the grid. Brilliant start for Taliancic so far. Apart from that, for the top guys, at least no changes. Potentially coming back though is Thompson. He's got to be careful of the drivers behind. He's left himself very vulnerable here. That's McKee trying to go around his outside. But he can't make it stick, and the Mustang driver.
Much cleaner restart this time, as we are in lap 4 out of 38. 7 minutes off the clock with this, but really this is the first time they will complete one full lap of these racetracks, as our cameras are on Sean Thompson, of course, fighting it out with James McKee, and now Emerson defending guard from James Scott, fight for the lead. Emerson hasn't been able to pull away. It's very tough to get a good getaway here, I think, Sam, because you don't want to floor it in the middle of the S's, because of course there will not be good traction, especially with these cars that get massive horsepower and they bring it down to those wheels. And it's very tough to get it stable as you push. And Knight is joined this party. He never really left it. Davison and Postlethwaite also very close. Top 5 with a bit of a breakaway. Then Taliancic in the middle, in the no man's land at the moment. And McKee, Thompson, Briggs, all the others. Kyle Stokes rounding up your top 10.
Remember, Emerson was fastest in normal qualifying, fastest in the top 10 shootout as well by a couple of tenths of a second. But this race session ever so different. and James Scott has certainly shown himself to be the fastest driver in this situation. I believe winning 7 of the last 8 rounds if you go back to last season. Here's Kenneth Latzo right in the middle of everything. There's a massive pack back from Talyancic, who of course managed to get past Thompson. McKee got past Thompson as well. I think we have side by side between the top two. Emerson trying to hold off Scott at the moment. They are side by side going through the final few corners, but Emerson managed to stay ahead. So Scott, seemingly really good pace down that back straight, managed to get alongside going into the S's, but it wasn't enough for him to move ahead. But like I was saying, Talyancic with a massive queue of cars back with McKee, Thompson, Briggs, Stokes, Johnston, Leach and Caruso, Hobson, everyone involved in this. The majority of the field all in this massive train of cars. Everyone really trying to make moves at the moment. That's almost going to be going into turn 2. By the way, Harley Haber just set the fastest lap of the race. Unfortunately, he's down in 32nd place. Half a second faster than the race leaders was Haber. What could have been day for him?
So you were absolutely right, Sam, because I think Talyancic is dropping back from his possible chase of a top 5 guys, and now back into basically defending from McKee, Thompson, and all the others. Cameras now on Sam Sutton. We are hovering around the 16th, 17th, 18th place with Ackland, Martin, McKnight, Morris, Varga, and all the rest. Laps around here, of course, very, very quick. We are scheduled for 150k, if I'm not mistaken, to run in this event. And they will go by pretty quickly, provided we don't have any other safety cars, of course, because, as I said, yes, laps is a very high-speed track. Oh, there was a big dive bomb there in the final corner, and positions stay the same, but there was, I think it was McKnight going all sorts of sideways. Sorry, no, that was Morris, I think it was sideways, and McKnight, of course, in the very recognizable...
Caruso in the wall.
Oh, yeah, Caruso is in the wall on the left side. You see the purple car.
He was running, Caruso, in, was he top 10? 13th place was Caruso.
Let's see, of course, if we are going to stay green. That would be, of course, the perfect commentator's curse. Oh, look at that. So there was a car in the wall there and a car in the wall here. So there are 2 vehicles that have made contact with the barriers. The question is, do we stay green?
So Caruso, I think, dips a wheel onto the grass on the outside. We've seen a couple of drivers do that. Oh, it was such a small amount as well. Would have almost been better if he was wider. Then I think he would have been able to lift out of the throttle, but instead he kind of just drove it normally, and it cost him bad. Seems though we're not going to get a safety car, though. I think Caruso's been able to limp that car around the track, and will be able to use his fast repair, of course. So at least be able to finish this race, but he's going to be nearly a lap down when everything is done. So Talyancic, McKee, by the way, a couple of laps ago set the fastest lap of the race. Emerson's just set the fastest lap of the race instead. These drivers are getting faster and faster as the tyres warm up. This is pretty much their peak performance now. Of course, the fuel running down each lap as well. Haber, as I say that now, saying the fast lap himself, despite the fact that he's in amongst some traffic up to 29th now, is Harley Haber. We'll keep an eye out on him.
Bad news for him, Sam, because Harley Haber just been given a drive-through penalty for lap 6 contact. He will have to go back to the pits, as we have Tom Freer falling down the order. He lost 10 places all of a sudden, and now he's down to P40, so probably something must have happened to the number 946 car. As we go quickly to the replay, thanks to Scott behind the cameras. And he got clipped there, then he clipped the grass and into the inside wall very hard. We should stay green, but I think the stewards will have a long, hard look at that. Oh, another car. It's Sean Lindsell. We have 3 wide coming out of the first corner there in front of these guys. Fantastic stuff. There's a car parked on the inside of turn 1.
I think that might be a lap down. Wasn't
Very
seeing
chaotic.
anyone dropping down the order.
Very chaotic moments here, as basically we can hear, at least in my headset, every time we switch to, especially the first couple of corners, but also the final part of the lap, tires squealing, trying to keep these beautiful vehicles safe on the road. Again, we stay green, half a second between first and second place, as the cameras are on Jamie McKnight. As a very recognizable black and orange livery we've come to know and love throughout the years.
Side by side, just behind them as well. McKnight's already lost a place, I think, to Smarts on this lap. Borg and Hines going side by side. Hines started up in 15th place. Not quite sure what happened to Hines. Must have been on the opening lap. They had a problem. But yeah, he's dropped down since then, trying to get back up. But overtakes have been at a premium so far. All these drivers ever so competitive. Remember, 2 splits in this championship. Such is the quantity of drivers, and so to get into this top split, you got to be mega quick. You got to be within the top 45 drivers, and all of the drivers, and I'm talking all 70 odds of them, who tried to get into the top split. A very competitive, sliding off the circuit is Brian Borg. He's going to lose a few places there. I think he kept it out of the barrier. And he's rejoined in 27th place, just in front of Sean Linsell, who we believe has had issues himself recently. Borg dropping out, I think, a little bit as well.
Yeah, he has been dropping out every once in a while. We have Knight and Davison, the 2 teammates, coming very close to each other in the S's, with Postlewaite very, very close, and maybe going for a move on the inside, using a bit of elbows. No, elbows very, very wide, trying to find the space, little bit of door banging there, and he completes the pass. Great move by Postlewaite. Can he hold it around the out? Well, he can. As they go down the hill, he will jump. That's a great move, Sam, for before.
Yeah, so actually losing 2 places then was Knight. So he was up in 3rd place, lost the place to Davison. Could have been choreographed, I'm not quite sure. I think it was a legitimate move though. And now Knight is down into 5th place. Not doing a whole lot wrong is Knight, although that last lap was very slow for him, about 1.5 seconds slower than the 2 leaders, I think partly because he was overtaken. There's Taliancic then. He's still got that queue behind him, but he's really not far behind Knight and Postlewaite. So now this is almost a chain behind the top 4, 4th place driver, Glenn Postlewaite, because these guys have been able to catch back up. McKee hasn't been able to overtake Taliancic, but despite looking very quick, does James McKee. Whenever he's had a little bit of free space, he's been able to set some blistering lap times, which would match the 2 race leaders. And so I expect him to perhaps go for an extreme strategy. Last time out at Summit Point, we saw drivers coming in at about the 30% mark in the race. I think it was something like 45 laps, and drivers started coming in on lap 15. And so if the same applies for this one, should see drivers within the next couple of laps coming into the pits. Of course, a bit higher fuel consumption circuit. This circuit most likely with the fast corners and the slightly longer straights than we see at Summit Point.
There's a penalty for car number 52, Thomas Ince, and that is for causing a collision. For drive-through penalty for the car that's actually at this point in time sitting in position number 19.
After his penalty, Harley Haber has dropped to 38th place. Still that fastest out there on the circuit. However, it doesn't matter too much for him at this point. Really disappointed today. A safety car here might make his face a little bit more fun. About the moment, it's looking quite dull for the already race winner this season. Here's a move potentially with Sutton trying to make a move. That was for 14th place on Kenneth Flatzer, to up 8 places himself. Thomas Hines going into the pits perhaps for that penalty. Also Christian Smart into the pits.
Yeah, another penalty for him as well.
Really?
Drive-through penalty. Yes. So both of the drivers. yeah, being pretty busy
Yeah,
this
earning
beginning
their
of the
money.
race. Earning their money, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, they are fantastic stewards, you know. You know that there's a special relationship between me and any series that we broadcast on racing stewards. So, yeah, maybe it's time to become, friends with the AOSC stewards as well for myself. You know, that has all sorts of privileges.
I mean, I was hoping that I'd perhaps get commentators of the season this season, but now that you're here, Mark, and already the chat are very impressed by your
Oh, there's a
pronunciation
car
of some
around
words.
there.
Oh, and
It's
that's in the middle of
Bowden.
the circuit. That's Bowden for tanked SRT. We've also had an issue for another driver. Has Dyson just had a couple of issues? Not quite sure. No, I think it was Jones as well, perhaps. Does he have to take evasive action here? Yeah, he managed to get through all right, did Jones. But yeah, spinning round then. Such a tricky corner there at Moss.
So here's another replay of what happened. We are on board, just clipping that dirty side there. And I mean, you could hear he was not even pushing on the throttle, but the car was simply impossible to control there. And it was a very lazy spin, but a spin nonetheless as we jump again to the fight for the lead, because the gap has been half a second most of the time, but now Scott has closed it to 0.2 of a second. And here we go, good run on the Andretti straight. Will he go for a move in the S's? Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a bit too early to risk it. You know, of course, we see this every time in every series. If second place is very, very close to first place, and they know that they will have to go through the pits for fuel, maybe, just maybe, a little bit of fuel saving as Hobson is in the pits. A little bit of fuel saving might be in order, and then try to jump with a little bit of strategy. But Scott seems to have good pace, or maybe a little bit of a mistake somewhere from Emerson. But these two have now distanced themselves from Danny Davidson there, of course, involved in that fight with Glenn Postlewaite and Jacob Knight. So those guys are also now getting spread apart a bit. And Taliancic has now closed the gap a bit, and now is much closer to the top 5 than he was before, when he was fighting with Thompson, Briggs, McKee, and the rest defending his 6th place. And there are some lap traffic also in front of the leaders, so this might get interesting in just a bit. As you can see on the Andretti straight, the gap between the leaders falls down significantly below 200 of a second. But I don't think that Scott is going to go for a move there just yet. You need a bigger run, or, as I said in the beginning of the broadcast, you might have to go through a move at Moss, which is going to be, of course, super brave and not easy at all. Very easy to end up in tears, to end up in Qatar, and with live stewarding, of course, you don't want to ruin your race, and of course your opponent race, for a move there that has high chances of going wrong.
Really kicked off on the last lap between the drivers from behind Taliancic, hence why Taliancic's got a bit of a gap over those guys. So I think Thompson's been able to move up into 7th place, McKee dropped down to 9th. So Thompson and Briggs managed to get past McKee, and also Stokes I don't think had a particularly good lap. I think Stokes maintained 10th. He's just ahead of Johnston and Leach at the moment. Here's Morris, this is battle for 15th, and that is him moving up into 15th. So Matt Morris will be very content with that. Jimmy McKnight another 2.5 seconds behind. Morris gaining 10 places now, and one of the highest gainers in all of this field. By the way, biggest gainer, Craig Jones, up 22 places. That's more like it. We were looking out for some drivers who gained 20 places after lap 1. He had to be a bit patient, but 22 places. Nice effort from the 111 car. He started in 41st position. Must be in very troublesome qualifying for him. There is Craig Jones. Danny Davidson into the pits. This is what we're talking about. this is nice roll of the dice, Marco, because you know nothing about strategy, being from the
Italian.
country of your origin. However, I like this strategy. He was 1.5 seconds off the race leaders, and we've seen in this series, the undercut is really powerful, not necessarily because of your outlap, but because when the drivers in front of you come into the pits a couple of laps after, you're going to have warm tyres, they're going to have cold tyres, and you've got a really good opportunity at pouncing on them.
Absolutely, and we know these cars usually eat through their tires very, very quickly. There is a big fall of lap after lap. And of course, in a track like this, where the car is in a dynamic state a lot of time because of all these long sweeping corners with all these elevation changes, that is, of course, amplified.
Oh, it's Davison had an issue. I think Davison is off the circuit at the moment. I'm seeing an off track for him, and he's still off the circuit. Brett Hender as well with problems. Hender's towed back to the pits.
So will this call for a safety car?
So Davison, you may have had a chance at taking the lead potentially. He's had a massive problem here, and this might show us what happened.
Yeah, coming out of that is Hobson behind him, and as they are going, oh wow, that's a big hit, and no way you save the car at that point in time, no way at all.
Great shame for the previously running third place driver, and it's taken the pressure off the top two. He may well have known that because known the issues for their rival, because they did not come into the pits that last time round.
So in the meantime, Knight has gone into the pits, so that is 100% sure. We see, of course, we can follow the pit stops and the pit times on the bottom side of your screen on that bar there that you will see moving, of course, as soon as the drivers enter the pit lane. Emerson and Scott, Aliancic, McKee, Stokes, Leach, all these guys still have to pit. Top two still very close, and now Scott comes into the pits. Emerson stays out. So undercut time.
Ritchie has to make up some place. I say he has to make up some place. He's got the same amount of pit stops still to go because he took his pit stop on the second lap of the race under the pace car. I hope he's got some nice pace at the moment. Does Bradley started very near the front of the field. Oh,
good save.
Just about. That was almost a curse. So where has Scott's come back out? Is he out of the pits? He is, and he's got some clear air. This is good news for James Scott. This is what he did at Summit Point to get second place, where the driver in second pitted, where he pitted one lap earlier than the driver in second place. Didn't manage to get the undercut necessarily, but when the other driver in front of him came out of the pits, their tyres were very cold, and Scott managed to move up a place on that occasion. Emerson, I mean, you could probably put your house on him coming into the pits on this time, just to fend off that undercut from the championship leader. Surprising that Emerson didn't pit first. Usually we see drivers trying to fend off, particularly when he was under so much pressure. And here comes the race leader, the pole sitter, the man who's tops every important session, led every lap. Will he lead after this pit stop? Scott's pit stop was 11.20, which isn't especially fast. It's all right. That's a middle pit stop. We have seen with two go down to a 10.23, although that was very early on in the race. 10.82 for Knight. That's probably more comparable. Can Scott take the lead? Already won 4 races this season. Emerson is still stationary, 12.2 seconds. I think Scott may well be able to take the lead here. Here he goes. James Scott moves into the lead at Mosport. The undercut has worked. He didn't even need the warm tyres. He's got a comfortable margin over his rival, and that is a superb strategy from the Evolution Racing driver.
And this goes to show once again why strategy is important, but why
off the circuit for Emerson.
Emerson, yes, is wide in Quebec corner, and also with a tough rejoin there, almost collecting Hobson. No, sorry, that was Thompson. I apologize. And Varga. Let's get a replay of that. So, cold tires, slippery grass, a slight glance at the barrier.
Just so desperate to catch up to the driver ahead, and you can see he was way too deep on the brakes considering the tyres nowhere near enough grip to take him around that part of the track. And so Jacob Knight got ahead, Glenn Postlethwaite got ahead, and even Thompson got ahead. So Emerson's going to drop down to 6th place at least. When, well, he might be a little bit harder than that because, of course, Taliancic is still out and McKee as well, so he'll be able to stay ahead of those guys. But, I mean, he could be under pressure. He might not even get a top 5 at the end of the day. Real great shame for, like I said, the driver who topped both qualifying sessions. And yet he's made a crucial mistake there and maybe didn't quite get the strategy right, which really put the pressure on him to do something special. This, well, now it's quite confusing who's racing and who's not racing. Most of the drivers are coming to the pits, by the way. Varga and Haynes are the 2 drivers in the top 20 who haven't pitted, along with the 3 leaders, Taliancic, McKee and Ackland. Everyone else really racing one another fair and square.
Sam, I was making my point earlier as Taliancic goes into pits, how motorsport is most of the times also a game of inches, because if Ratu doesn't have that mistake in the final corner, he probably comes in just in front or side by side with Scott, but he made that mistake, therefore Scott had a clean track in front of him, and that of course made it possible for him to get the undercut, and then Emerson of course getting behind cold tires, pushing too hard probably, and going wide onto the grass. Taliancic is coming out of the pits right now after his stop. He should be somewhere around here, just in front of these guys, to be precise, the black and green car there. As we see lots of chaos here behind Briggs, fighting with Stokes as they go down the hill.
Did Briggs just give that one up? He seems to be getting base, like. Yeah, he's put on the in-race chat pass right. I don't know if there's an issue for Adam Briggs, who was running in 10th place at the start of this lap. He's down into 14th now. Is going decently fast, but I don't know how you'd pick up a slowdown at the end of the lap.
You could, theoretically. There is, as McKee, the leader, goes into the pits. If you cut a bit too much of those S's there, especially the final corner, you might be tagged with a slowdown. Cameras on Sam Sutton here on the replay. Adam Briggs, apologies, as you see on the left of the racetrack, and yeah, he's clearly letting people by.
Maybe he made contact with someone earlier on and just giving them this place back, so he gets a smaller penalty. So Taliancic is coming to the pits, and he's in 4th place as Taliancic. That is very impressive for Michael, because he was, well, I think he was ahead of Postlethwaite anyway beforehand, but went out longer, 5 laps longer, and yet his pace was so good and his pit stop was so quick. He's been able to maintain 4th place and has a real chance at perhaps chasing down Jacob Knight for 3rd position. Emerson just set the fastest up of the race. And he's in 6th place at the moment, still Ackland yet to pit.
Yeah, Ackland, the only driver yet to pit in the entire field. He will do that very soon, and that will give the lead. And here he goes into the pits. You see, sometimes I get stranded. This was not difficult, but for an Italian, it is still important. Tough to get this right. So Ackland is in the pits. Scott will take back the lead as we are here on this camera. As we see Postlethwaite going on the inside of Taliancic into the final corner. Little bit of a shoulder barge there. Fantastic stuff as they head into the first corner. Taliancic, the car on the outside. Can he respond as he will have the inside here going down the hill? No, that's a great pass. And here comes, you can see Emerson, but Taliancic with a move on the inside. No dice, they're careful about the grass, and now Emerson sees an opportunity to get the position. And of course Thompson following super close there behind. Fantastic fight. Now Emerson goes a bit wide, needs to be careful. He knows all about the dangers of that slice of grass there. Bit of traffic jams, Sam, getting now basically for third place backwards in the field right now.
Yeah, definitely. Taliancic will be furious with leaving that place, letting that place go. Like I said, he'd done the hard work. He'd been able to stay out longer in his first stint, then pit and stay in that 4th place. And his tyres were warming up after those couple of laps, yet he managed to lose the position. Here he goes now. Now he's got those fresher tyres and can really use them. Round the outside goes Taliancic. Nope, and he's got to be careful as well. Oh, it's a tap from Taliancic, and
it's a great
keeping
save.
it going. That is a superb save. Taliancic's going to lose another place at this corner. And I think he'll be just pleased that he hasn't picked up a penalty. One awful few corners for the 777 car. He was looking ever so good for a podium, and now he's down into 5th place. And it's turned out all right now for John Emerson. He's got a chance of getting back into the top 3. Some decent lap times. And he looks a lot quicker than Glenn Postlethwaite. Remember, Postlethwaite pitted on lap 16, which is one of the earliest of all the drivers. Hobson pitted on lap 14, who's just a few cars back in this chain. This goes back to Carl Stokes in 11th place. And also Adam Briggs, who had that issue a few laps ago. Also not too far back. It was the move from Postlethwaite. I mean, textbook Mosport move, huh? And good of him not to understeer into Taliancic, left him plenty of space on the outside.
Seeing a replay here.
So here was the tap. Just got his nose underneath. Good save from Postlethwaite. He's just had to hold off an attack from Emerson. Still holds that 3rd position though.
Oh, I just noticed that sponsor on that car of Damien Johnson. KSW Paintings, of course, a sponsor we all know and love for our past adventures, well, even present adventures, of course, me and Sam. But back to the racing there, because this is a fantastic battle that will go probably all the way down to the final lap. We are on lap 26 out of 38, so quite clearly into the final part of this very exciting Mosport round of the Acuta AOSC Super Series here on the iRacing Esports Network. Round 5 of the championship.
Emerson's very close to Postlethwaite, so
yes, here we go.
He goes around the outside. This didn't work out for Taliancic. However, it seems as though Emerson's got more confidence, and he's got the inside for the penalty. Contact between the two of them, and you know what? I think he might be able to maintain it.
No!
Gets wiped out.
Massive.
And through goes Sean Thompson into 3rd place. Sutton's up into 4 out of that. And losing out big time is Emerson. Has he got damage, Emerson? Or is he just feeling guilty? I don't know. But he's very slow. Oh, well, such unfortunate there for Taliancic. Because maybe that's karma for the contact beforehand. I don't know. I don't think that's particularly fair. Because he was looking so he could get back into P3. And he got absolutely wiped out.
Wow, that was hard. As you can see, replays right now.
Emerson's trying to let back past Postlethwaite for this contact.
So here we go on the outside. That was a brilliant move there, as we are on board with Hobson, so we can see it unfold from a safe distance as the cars make contact there. You will see in the grass, nowhere. Car spins out of control again. That grass really working basically like soap.
And Postlethwaite's off the circuit again. Dropping down the order is Glenn Postlethwaite. There he is. Oh, well.
Oh, he's missing his bonnet, maybe.
Are we going to get a safety car here? If he tows back, then it looks as though we might need one. He's asking to escape on the chat. It's still green though. Safety car right now would certainly give James Scott cause for concern. So Taliancic, has he taken his... So Taliancic hasn't pitted. Looks like a decent hit for him.
Safety car.
Here we go. Is he thinking, okay, I'll take it during the safety car? Or because he's going to have to get that fixed?
He most definitely needs to. Of course, Scott was enjoying a big lead overnight, and now that he's been wiped. So, Sam, I give you the question is, of course, pits are always open under the safety car, under this manually deployed safety car. So, will there be takers? Well, Opson is in the pits. Not only for eventual repairs, but I think, if you put 4 fresh tires on your car, yeah, you're going to, of course, drop some positions, but now that the field is still a bit spread out, you really could have then some massive speed in the final part of the race as the beautiful Acuta super Acuta pace car, sorry, is lining up the field, flashing. You know what? I learned something new on iRacing the other day, and I never thought this. I thought you had basically, when you wanted to flash your lights, you could press the button, and then you have to keep pressing it, like tapping it, to have the multiple headlights flash. But I noticed that you can just plant your finger on the button, and the light will flash. Basically, there is no cooldown
really?
period. Yes, there is no cooldown period. I noticed it during the Daytona 24 hours. So,
And I'm sure the other drivers noticed you trying it out during the Daytona 24 hours.
I am a good guy. I don't abuse that. The cars have been asked to stick on the right side on the backstretch by race control.
Taliancic still hasn't pitted, by the way. Can we get a shot of Taliancic's car, because, or half of Taliancic's car, because the other half of it is strewn round on the circuit.
The reason why the drivers have been asked to stay on the right side on the backstretch is because we have that stranded car there on the left side. Taliancic is missing, like you were saying, important chunks of the front end of his Holden.
So I think the only driver that I've seen who has come into the pits was Hobson, who I think was the driver who pitted on lap 14. And so he pitted mega early anyway. And so I think if he'd stayed out, he would have been a sitting duck when it came to the restart. Instead, he's coming to the pits. We'll get some fresh tyres. Will be very tricky for him though. Guess we'll have to do some burnouts under the pace car. Not sure if that's allowed or not, but we'll need to get some heat into those tyres. We'll probably have one more lap under the pace car, I imagine. Taliancic, I mean, he's coming to the pits now. I don't know why he didn't come into the pits in the first place. But he will be very quick towards the end of this one. Where's Haber, actually? I haven't talked about Haber for it feels for about half the race. He is in
26th place. Yeah, now we will be 25th.
But he hasn't pitted under this pace car. He was one of the first drivers to pit in the entire race. So Brenton O'Brien in front of him has pitted 3 times. Haber's only pitted once, apparently. Although, of course, he did also have the drive-through. But Haber's not... I mean, he's going to be quick, but he would much fancy his chances if he had some fresher tyres. Instead, he's got some of the oldest tyres on the track.
So, getting a report that Emerson has stowed back to the pits. So, massive shame for him. What could have been? People are asking in the race chat why there is a Mercedes as a safety car. That is because it is manually controlled by the good folks at the AOSC Super Series Race Control. So therefore, they will deploy the safety car without using the automatic iRacing system, and they will control the field with a real life. It's a real life driver. Well, a human and not an AI driving that car, which makes it even more compelling, in my opinion, because you can have different solutions and different methods of deploying the pace car. Pace car, which, by the way, Sam, as you have seen from the shot of the backstretch, has pulled away from the field. Pace car will come in, the safety car will come in this lap.
And James Scott will take the field. From first position, was in second place at the last restart, of course. What can Jacob Knight do against him? Everyone in the top, really 9 drivers, have got similar aged tyres. Damien Johnson, watch out for him in 5th place. He's got slightly older tyres. Not a whole lot of difference though. Joe's got to heat up those tyres. We've seen those issues so far in this race. But here comes James Scott, vying for his 4th race win of the season, out of 5. We've got 8 laps to go here at Mosport. And it's the ERT088 car who gets us back underway. Already having to go defensive is Damien Johnson from Guy Leach. Leach goes down the inside, almost going to have to go over the white line in order to make that move. Can't make it though. Johnson's already dropped to second to Sam Sutton in 4th place. That's great news for the 1-2 car. And now a massive gaggle forming behind the 033 machine. He has to go to the middle of the circuit, defending into every single corner at the moment. Also, Haber trying to gain some places, I think, further down the order. Craig Jones as well for Mach 1 Esports, trying to get down the inside of his rival. But I'm not seeing any changes on the restarts so far. Here comes Jones late down the inside into Moss. Don't think he made that one. And that is Hobson off the circuit, and Jones as well. So I think they may have made contact. I think
there's been a mess at the airpin there at Moss corner, because I saw several drivers lose their positions on the timing tower. We are staying green for the time being, which effectively now is going to be an 8-lap race, more or less, as it's becoming more and more of a popular passing spot, this final corner of the S's. We've seen, of course, how risky it can be, as exemplified by the crash that gave us the latest safety car in the race. Scott Alpha second overnight, then it's Thompson, Sutton, Johnston, Leach, Stokes, Briggs, Morris and McKee, your top 10. So in what has been a chaotic but very, very compelling Mosport round. And this is not over just yet, Sam. I think any one of these top 5-6 drivers can bring home the race victory, especially considering how easy it is to make a mistake around here, and how more aggressive the drivers will become, as we have just seen at Moss corner here.
Leach right on the tail of Damien Johnston. As Leach just gained a place, and I think that is the same order as they were before. Here comes Leach. He's almost boxed in though. Can he get to the inside? He has to give a bump job to his rival. Almost, making contact with him, definitely. Johnston on the inside, trying to go around the outside is Stokes, who's all of a sudden launched into action here. Can Stokes get that move done? We'll have the inside wall. Leach going into the final corner, and Stokes is going to have to look behind himself now, because there's other drivers vying for that position, including Briggs and Morris and McKee as well. Leach loses out to Stokes. Better exit from the final corner for him. And now he can set his targets on Damien Johnson, and you'd back him to perhaps make that move, because he has got 3-lap younger tyres. McKnight at the rear of this very clustered train. Davison also heading up another gaggle of cars. And off the circuit goes Loxton. He was trying to get past Davison. Instead, he's made the mistake at the very famous turn 3, where we've seen the majority of the crashes so far in this race. and he's dropped about 10 places right there. Haber up into 20th place, by the way.
Yes, and we are on board with the car just in front of him, which is, of course, Thomas Heinz, that Ford trying to catch the other Ford of Danny Davison right in front of him, and having a fantastic run here. We'll move to the outside. This is the problem with this corner, of course. When you have a good run, usually you have to go around the outside, and it's very tricky to keep the car there, but he has been able to do so. That's a fantastic pass.
Oh, Davison round into the
Davison
wall.
is hard, very hard into the wall. Now he's very close to the pit entrance, so we should stay green. Should he want to come and get some repairs, it's just a short distance. I will keep my ears peeled.
No, he's stayed out.
Any call for from race control. He stays out, perfect. Let's get a replay of that then. Always on the money, Scott Newton with his replays. We'll see once again what happened here. That's a brave move down around the outside, almost clipping the grass. And then you can see. Oh, there was contact. I thought it was a case of on the power too early, but no, there was contact, and I'm sure race control will have a look at that.
So Haber, who's already got a drive-through so far today, could be in store for another one, just as it was looking decent for him. Another issue for the driver who was completely taken out on the opening lap through no faults of his own. Since then, though, has been involved in a couple of crashes. So Scott leads 9/10 of a second ahead of Knight. He hasn't pulled away significantly, but it's enough, and he's doing just enough to win this race, most likely, as long as he keeps it on the tarmac. 4 laps to go in this race. Knight holding off the pressure from Thompson. He's kind of built into this race since the restart has Knight. He's become more and more confident. Thompson under massive pressure from Sutton, who has been phenomenal in the second half of the race. Sutton, who was on the lower reaches of the top 10 at the for the most of this race. He started outside the top 20, did Sutton, and yet has just slowly moved his way up, really benefited from that chaos we saw through the S's about 10 laps ago, and is now running a superb 4th and looking like possibly the fastest driver on the track. Then we've got Johnston, another 1.3 seconds behind with those slightly older tyres, and then Stokes, Leach, Briggs, Morris, McKee all queuing up behind, McKnight and Latter also involved, and Ackland as well in 13th place. Ackland with very fresh tyres. Of course, you can check out when the drivers all pitted for tyres via the live timing link. That will be in the description in this video, provided by SDK Gaming, of course.
A drive-through penalty for April.
Oh, Briggs off the circuit.
Some drive-through penalty for Aper for causing the collision a couple of laps ago. So another penalty for him. There is a car going very deep there, and it is, I think, Varga.
Yeah,
a bit wide in the final corner.
I'm curious what happened to Adam Briggs, because he's just dropped, I think, about 5 places. Here he is then, so right in the midst of all this battle, from about 5th down to 13th. Oh, he gets overtaken. Well, I think the driver on the inside have made his position pretty clear there. And Briggs perhaps could have left a little bit more room. I don't know. The stewards will have a much better angle than I, and will have much better judgment than I. But Briggs is down into 13th place now.
That was possibly Daniel Hackland, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I've not pointing my finger towards the wrong driver.
It was someone in that battle. It was someone between 5th and 13th, certainly.
So Sam, all of a sudden we have just a couple of laps left. James Scott starting lap 37 out of 38, and you can see here almost 1 second gap between himself and Jacob Knight. Sean Thompson fighting hard to defend that final podium spot, because Sam Sutton is certainly in the fight and will not give up. Top 4 with a bit of a gap over 5th place, and of course 5th place backwards. There is a big fight there as well. But of course, Scott in a good position, and you can see behind him, Knight getting almost pushed by Sean Thompson as they head for the penultimate time on the Mario Andretti straight as we jump on board with the Holden, the number 092 Holden. 7 places gain for Thompson in this race.
Credit to Jacob Knight being a bit quiet in this race, kind of always quite just, stable out there. The constant in, whilst everyone else has been being crazy around him. James Scott with a bit of a mistake there. He's just given up about 0.3 of a second as we move on to the final lap of the race at 38. 150 kilometers this race, 4 kilometers remaining, less than that now. Off track for Craig Jones has just dropped a few places. Apart from that, Johnston's done a good job at holding off Stokes. He's kind of just been battling with Leach ever since he managed to get past. But look at this top 4. Sutton has been ever so quick. He's just had the problem that Thompson has had the slipstream from Knight, and it's really prevented the 12 car from having an opportunity. They are, 0.7 of a second behind James Scott. Looks almost closer than that to the eye. And Knight with a good exit. He should be all right to hang on to that second place. 0.3 of a second between Thompson and Sutton. That should be okay for the 092 car. Seems to have good straight line speed out here. And in the battle from 5th down to 12th, no further changes. So here comes James Scott. His winning run came to an end 2 weeks ago at Summit Point. However, he's going to get that winning feeling back at Mosport. He takes his 4th race win of the season out of 5. James Scott for ERT wins at Mosport. Adam Briggs side by side to the line. I think he loses out to Linsell and Ritu in the end. Frustrating end for Adam Briggs. Also side by side between Hobson and O'Brien. O'Brien manages to claim a top 20 place. Varga struggling in the closing stages. He lost a few places, did Varga in the on the last lap? Not quite sure. No, it seemed like a decent lap for him. And the rest of the drivers all cross the line. So Marco, what a performance there from particularly all the front runners. I think if you look at each of their races, they all did a superb job. But those safety cars really did mix up the action. It was fantastic to see the strategy, fantastic to see the racecraft between these guys.
Absolutely massively enjoyable race. It was entertaining from start to finish. We had a lot of drama, some extracurricular activity, a lot of couple of big contacts. Very, very exciting way. I mean, this is maybe too much excitement and energy for me to start the day, and you, of course, being that is still morning here in Europe. But I mean, all jokes aside, fantastic stuff, and of course, probably 100% Brad will be back for the next round, but I will be enjoying Oran Park as a fan, and it's going to be fantastic as well, because of course, who doesn't love these cars around Oran Park?
Absolutely. That's an awesome circuit. Fantastic that we're going to be visiting there soon. So, the results from round 5 of the championship. James Scott wins out. Jacob Knight in 2nd position. Sean Thompson in 3rd. Sam Sutton, great drive. 17 places gained to 4th. 13 places gained by Damien Johnson. He went for a mega undercut. I say a mega undercut. It was just, an undercut. And it worked brilliantly. Credit to Damien Johnson to finish in 5th. Carl Stokes, nice recovery, up 10 places to 6th. Then was Guy Leach, James McKee, Matt Morris, and Jamie McKnight rounding out the top 10. Only 5.6 seconds off the lead. Latta and Ackland in 11th and 12th. 6.4 seconds between the top 12. Absolutely incredibly close. Then was Sean Linsell, Bradley Ritu, Adam Briggs, Reese Keane, Thomas Hines, Marlon McCullen, Tyler Bowen, Brenton O'Brien, Brenton Hobson, who pitted at the last pace car, really didn't work out for him, that strategy. Todd Parks in 22nd. There was Brett Loxton, Stephen Varga, Bruce Keeley, Andrew Dyson, Rob Bowden, Brian Borg, Greg Sharp, Ian Bird, Harley Haber, who I think got another drive-through at the end in 31st, Jordan Caruso, Craig Jones, Grant Keynes, David Kimmond, Matt Deere, Michael Taliancic was the last driver on the lead lap. 1 lap down was Christian Smart, David Miller, and Gavin Cox, and the retirees were Danny Davison, John Emerson, Paul Sitzer obviously, Glenn Postlethwaite, who was running in 3rd at one point, Brett Hender, and Tom Freer. Nick Halser, pace car driver, did do a few laps in the end, in 46, but still was last. Interviews with Jazz. So the interviews for round 5 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series about to be conducted, and we will first have a chat with the only man we can have a chat with. It's James Scott, who has won his 4th race of the season. James, congratulations. Take us through the start first off, because you started in 4th place. We'll take us through qualifying and the start, because you were in 4th place, but that was a crucial getaway. You got straight away up into 2nd place.
Yeah, obviously the first round, this one with the top 10 shootout, so that was really good fun. Good to see the series is trying some new things. I didn't get the best lap in the shootout. I think I drove a bit too safe and didn't hang it all out there. But that start was one of the best I've ever got. Just hooked up and away she went, and I was able to get past the 2 EXG cars. And unfortunately, I think they had a bit of drama in turn 2, which put them back down the field. And then I was just saving some fuel behind Emerson, John Emerson, for tried to get an undercut on him. And unfortunately, I think he went off as well. I think I've seen in the mirror. And
Yeah, it was a pretty perfect first half of the race. You built yourself a nice gap. And then the safety car, I mean, what was going through your mind when the safety car came out? Because, you built up a massive lead and all of a sudden it's a little bit complicated.
Yeah, for sure. I was a bit nervous there. Obviously, I think I had about a 4.5 to 5 second lead there just before the safety car, and was just sort of cruising around, just making sure I didn't go off. And then I seen Glenn wanted to escape, so I thought, it's probably going to be safety car here. So then I just tried to control the restart, get a nice launch, and it's very hard to pull away here because it's such a short lap, and the draft, I think with the wind direction on this track, in the server, is very powerful, so it's very hard to pull away. And
in the end, you managed to win out. Very impressive. Next up, we head to Oran Park. I mean, that is a proper twisty circuit, going to be tricky to overtake round there. Do you have much experience around that place? Have you driven in this series around that track before?
I've driven in a couple other series around that track, but haven't driven it in this new car. Obviously, it's a home track for a few of us Sydney guys. Look on to put a good show there.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, James, on your 4th race win of the season. Just a word as well on the championship. I mean, you got quite a handy advantage now. You must be feeling confident going into the going into the middle of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not quite sure what the numbers are at the moment, but it's still very early on. Obviously, drop rounds and things like that can come into play heading into the latest part of the year. But I couldn't have asked for a much better start off to the season.
Awesome. Well, is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Obviously, a shout out to all the Evolution Racing team guys, especially Jordan Caruso, for developing the setup for this week. I thought it was quite good. And obviously all our sponsors, Logitech G, West End Mazda, Parramatta Isuzu, and Too Easy Finance. And obviously you guys for putting on a great show.
Thank you very much, James, and best of luck in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, boys.
That was James Scott, race winner for today's meeting at Mosport. Marco, I believe we've got a couple of other podium sitters. Who do you want to have a chat with now?
Let's have a chat with Jacob Knight. He finished in second place. Well, congratulations, Jacob, and welcome to the booth.
Thank you, P2. That feels like a win for me. I've never actually got a podium in AOSC before, so yeah, I was very overwhelmed.
So how was the race from your perspective? Of course, you started the proceedings today, sitting in P18 in the championship. So of course, finishing second was a great result for you. Of course, you get further ahead in the standings overall. But I mean, how was the race from your perspective overall?
Exactly, yeah. That's a very good result for the points race. Obviously, I got a bad start. Thankfully, a couple of the guys in front obviously crashed out. We had the safety car. Halfway through the first stint there, the front tyres started dying and I really dropped off the pace. And then once Glenn got past me, I put my head down and kept up with him. And then I jumped him in the pits, and the second is where I stayed the whole time.
How did the safety cars play in your overall race strategy? Were you helped by them or no?
Obviously, the first safety car was lap 1, and that last safety car, I was crapping myself, thinking, "Oh no, they're all going to overtake me now." But I just put my head down, focused forward, and didn't worry about the people in my mirrors behind me.
So next time around, we will be running in Oran Park. What are your feelings about that racetrack?
Oran Park, not strong. Not a strong track for me.
Well, I think that says it all. Well, again, Jacob, congratulations. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
First of all, I'd like to thank the team, Exto and Brad. Brad does an amazing job with sets week in, week out. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Nat Radbiala, Quantum Energy.
Awesome, Jacob. Thank you very much, and catch you next time. Again, great podium. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for the broadcast, boys.
So next up, we're going to have a chat with Sean Thompson. He managed to get a podium, 10th place on the grid, Sean, but a brilliant drive through the order. I mean, yeah, take us through the event from your perspective. How was the first half of the race? How was that first stint?
The first stint was pretty good. I avoided the lap 1 incident that happened ahead of me. Got around that, and then just tried to stick to the car like glue in front, and pitted, and then yeah, it just kind of fell into place and was kind of like luck.
We saw overtaking a bit of a premium. How did you find the overtaking there? Because you were really in the midst of a big pack of drivers for much of the race.
The overtaking was alright. If I can remember, I don't think I really overtaked many people. They all crashed ahead of me, so I just gained positions from people making mistakes. And yeah, it kind of fell into place for me, and I managed to get my first AOSC podium.
Definitely. Well, certainly congratulations on that. I mean, Sam Sutton in those closing stages was right on your tail. Every time I looked at the timing screen, he seemed to be about 0.2 of a second behind you, but down that back straight, you just seemed to be able to keep a healthy distance to him. Were you running a bit less drag? How come you were able to keep him behind so comfortably?
I think that was mostly due to Jacob Knight's draft in front of me. If he wasn't there, I'm pretty sure Sutton would have got ahead past me. But I was definitely willing to defend and block a little bit to hold that position, because I definitely wanted to finish third. So.
And of course, in the championship, you're going to be promoted a lot of positions. I think I was looking before. You were a 20, barely in the top 20 positions, I think, in the championship going into this round. Have you got any aims for the championship? Is there anything you want to achieve? Maybe like a race win? Of course, now you got your first podium. Are you aiming for like a race win at some point this season, or a certain position in the championship?
I wouldn't mind getting into the top 10 in the championship. That'd be a good result at the end of the season. would love to win a race, but with the amount of high caliber drivers that race in the series, it's going to be very slim. I was kind of lucky to get third place tonight, I think.
Well, it's certainly a brilliant drive. Congratulations, Sean. Is there any shout-outs you'd like to give to anyone before we let you go?
Just mostly the team. Brett Loxon for the awesome setups that he makes. KRF Motorsports is who I drive for, as well as Henry James Racing, HJR. And of course, our sponsor on the car is the driver's seat, so I would like to thank them. His car looks awesome. Henry did an awesome job on that. So, yeah, I get to drive around in style.
Absolutely. Well, you're certainly driving with a lot of style today. Sean, congratulations on your first podium and best of luck for Oran Park in a couple of weeks' time.
No problem, mate. Thanks a lot.
And that was Sean Thompson rounding out our podium drivers today. That pretty much rounds us off. But in terms of sponsors, of course, another big shout out to everyone who makes this championship possible. Acuta Solutions, of course, the title sponsor, providing rigging hardware and safety equipment. Next Level Racing, providing a flight cockpit, and will be giving a prize direct drive base to a driver this season. Abruzzi Racewear, doing real life racing gear and sim racing gear, all custom made. Motum Simulations, who have VR racing simulators all around Australia. Night Rider Designs, creating personal liveries for drivers and teams on iRacing. Wolf Graphics, doing personalized stickers and signs. Sam Blacklock Media, doing the race highlight photos, which you'll be able to catch on the AOSC Facebook page after this race. And of course, Race Management Service, doing the race control for all rounds of the championship. Marco, your first round commentating on this series. You can kind of appreciate how entertaining these rounds are. I mean, 150 kilometers, but it felt as though we had a whole lot more action than that. A couple of pace cars. Incredibly tight racing today. I mean, the field is so evenly matched. We saw it in qualifying, and we saw it for every single one of the 38 laps.
Entertaining series, well organized. It was absolutely a pleasure to join you for this round, and again, cannot wait for Oran Park.
Definitely. So we'll be back then in 2 weeks' time for that 150 kilometer race at Oran Park. Remember, of course, to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. We've got other V8 supercars action later on in the week and going into next week, of course, and loads of other categories, of course. Certainly do recommend subscribing to it. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, please do check out Apex Racing TV as well, our own YouTube channel, where you can find many more broadcasts like this, such as the Euro V8 Supercar Series, which will be on tomorrow evening for Europeans. But from me and from Marco and from Scott, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.